What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL video, and in this video I am going to give you my top position groups for every position on offense. I'm going to give you the three best teams under each offensive position group: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, including the offensive line. These are my top position groups, top depth charts across the NFL. The key in making this list is the depth on your football team. That is the biggest key. I don't care if they have the greatest duo. What do they have past that duo? What's the third receiver like? What's the fourth receiver like? What's the third tackle like? What's the fourth guard like? That is the key to making this list, the depth. Also, there may be some confusion, especially along the offensive line, on which players play what exact positions when it comes to being a backup. Well, I went based off of the Pro Football Focus position group of that team. So if Pro Football Focus graded them as a center, I put them as a center. If they graded them as a guard, I made them a guard. Before I give you my top three NFL teams at each offensive position, Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this, and comment your opinion below. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Let's kick off ranking every position in the NFL with the most important position in football. That is the quarterback position. At number 3, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, of course, are headlined by Hall of Fame, top 10 of all time, Drew Brees. Drew Brees is one of the best ever and still maintains his position as one of the elite quarterbacks in football, but it's behind him where I really believe if Brees were to go down for whatever reason, Sean Payton would be able to get the best out of a Teddy Bridgewater, a quarterback who has brought an NFL team to the playoffs, the Minnesota Vikings, just a few seasons ago. He has had some injury issues, but I do believe within the Saints system, Teddy Bridgewater would succeed if he needed to. He's a nice passer, has some mobility to his game, good accuracy, and again, key point here, he's had success in the past. Then you look at their third string quarterback in Taysom Hill. Not necessarily a prototypical starting NFL quarterback, but there have been rumblings that Sean Payton wants to make him his future quarterback once Drew Brees does retire. Now, I don't know how true those statements are, but Taysom Hill is a great athlete. One of the best athletes in the entire NFL. Doesn't matter if he's a quarterback, whatever position he plays, Taysom Hill is a phenomenal athlete. He can run, he can pass, he can return kicks, he can tackle and play special teams. I think if he were to go in and split with Teddy Bridgewater a little bit, they would add a little bit more wildcat with Taysom Hill, a little bit more trickery with Taysom Hill. I think the Saints would be able to make it work if Drew Brees went down. At number 2, I have the LA Chargers. A lot of people kind of underestimated the signing of Tyrod Taylor to the LA Chargers because Phillip Rivers doesn't get injured very often, and when he does, he finds a way to stay on the football field because he's just that tough. And Phillip Rivers, to me, is still a top 10 quarterback in football, but behind him is Tyrod Taylor, a guy, again, like Teddy Bridgewater, has had success in the NFL, bringing the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs. The only quarterback in the entire 2000s or 2010s to bring the Buffalo Bills to the playoffs. That is saying something. Anthony Lynn also has some history with Tyrod Taylor, and he knows how to utilize his legs, his biggest asset. I think if Tyrod Taylor was needed at any point in the NFL season for just about any team, he'd be able to fill in, but the Chargers are just about the best team that Tyrod Taylor could have signed with. And at number 1, the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, I love Andrew Luck. I ranked him number 2 as my second best quarterback in football. And you may disagree with that fact, but there's really no denying that Andrew Luck is a bright star in the NFL, going to be a great player for a very long time, and has been a great player in the NFL, and is an MVP candidate going into 2019. But behind him is Jacoby Brissett. I think a quarterback that is a future starter in the NFL for some other team. Now, if Andrew Luck, for whatever reason, was to get injured, I do believe Jacoby Brissett would be able to fill in admirably. And actually, I think that would give the Colts the opportunity, once Brissett gets in there, plays very well, which he has in the past, would have the opportunity to trade him somewhere and get quite a nice load of draft picks in return. Out of all of the backups in the NFL, Jacoby Brissett has the most potential. And that is why I rank the Indianapolis Colts number one as the number one best quarterback group in the NFL. Starting off the running back position at number 3, I have the San Francisco 49ers backfield, Kyle Shanahan's set of running backs that I think is going to have a massive season in 2019. Kyle Juszczyk is not a running back, but a fullback, and arguably the best fullback in football. And he has such great versatility to what he can do within this offense, whether it's as a blocker or a receiver. Kyle Juszczyk is kind of that chess piece within this offense that complements the set of running backs so well. The set of running backs I'm discussing is Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, and Matt Breida. These 3 players are going to be the primary backs for the 49ers in 2019. And each one of them has their own set of skills that is unique to this offense, but each one of them is versatile enough to be the starter, to be the pass catcher, or to be the primary runner. You start off with the guy that was the man last season, Matt Breida. Matt Breida, to me, is one of the toughest running backs in the league. Whether it's fighting through injury, fighting through tackles, Matt Breida is one of the toughest guys in the league. I think he is the worst pass catcher out of all these guys, but he is the most underrated out of all these guys and has had success in Shanahan's offense for the past 2 seasons. Jerick McKinnon was supposed to be their starter going into 2018, but he was injured before the season even started. To me, he is maybe the best pass catcher. It's between him and Coleman of this group. He is the quickest side to side of this group and is the freakiest athlete of this group. Then you look at Tevin Coleman, who is a part of the longtime tandem in Atlanta beside Devontae Freeman. And he finally gets the opportunity to be the starter in San Francisco, possibly. He's a great pass catcher, and what he brings to this backfield is his straight line speed. Once he hits that hole, he is gone. So at number 3, the 49ers trio of backs alongside Kyle Juszczyk. At number 2, I have the New England Patriots running backs. The Patriots running backs not only have skill, but they have a lot of depth. You start off with Sony Michel, who could be one of the more underrated straight runners of the football in the league. He had such an epic playoffs in 2019, where he had the best playoff performance for a running back since Terrell Davis in the late 90s. That's how epic he was last season. And I think he's only going to get better in his second season with hopefully a full training camp alongside Tom Brady. And he could even become more of a pass catcher going into 2019. Speaking of pass catchers, the Patriots have arguably the best one at the running back position in James White. He's one of the best route runners at this position. He can carry the football if need be and will quite a bit on third down. He was a touchdown machine. If you had him in fantasy last year, you know. And he's a consistent force underneath the defense. That defenses at the end of last year were saying, we need to guard him just as much as we need to guard Julian Edelman. That's the type of impact James White has in the passing game. Damian Harris, they drafted in the 3rd round, I believe is an all-around back, a tough runner, and could complement Sony Michel in that aspect of the game. Rex Burkhead is a little bit of everything, including a player that can play a little bit of special teams. He can replace Sony Michel if Michel goes down, or he could replace James White if James White goes down. Brandon Bolden is a solid special teamer, as well as we saw in Miami, especially last year, still has something left in the tank as a running back, still a bit of speed and great leadership added to this position. At number 2, I have the Patriots for the complement of skills, backs, and players that they have at their running back position. And at number 1, I have the Cleveland Browns. And this is mostly not due to the depth, but mostly due to the outright skill of these players. You look at Nick Chubb, first off, who was one of the best rookie running backs alongside Sony Michel and Saquon Barkley last season. Nick Chubb was explosive. He had a gear last year that I didn't think he had coming in out of college. So Nick Chubb, I believe, could take that next step with Baker Mayfield and Odell and this offense in Cleveland as one of the star running backs in 2019. And then you look at Kareem Hunt, who's a star running back in his own right in Kansas City before the off-the-field issues. This tandem is the best tandem in football. And then you just add on to the fact that they have Duke Johnson, one of the better pass catchers at the running back spot. The Browns, to me, have the best set of running backs. At number 3, at the tackle position, I have the LA Rams. And the reason why the Rams make it this season going into 2019 is for the improved play of Rob Havenstein, a former second-round pick in 2015. Havenstein's really improved each season in his career and has really improved in McVay's system. Not to mention, they have an all-time great tackle in Andrew Whitworth, who's really been able to shine with the LA Rams playing as well as they have. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to win the Super Bowl and really add to his career resume last season, but he's just provided a steady force since signing from the Bengals over to the Rams, and they have one of the best duos at left and right tackle in the NFL. They also have Bobby Evans and David Edwards as backups. Andrew Whitworth ranked 3rd overall by PFF in 2018, and Havenstein ranked number 7. The Rams have the 3rd best tackle group in the NFL. At number 2, I have the New Orleans Saints with Terron Armstead at left tackle and Ryan Ramczyk at right tackle. Terron Armstead ranked 2nd overall at the tackle position by PFF, and Ryan Ramczyk ranked number 8. Along with those two, they have Marshall Newhouse, who has some experience playing some games in his NFL career as the swing tackle as well. These two are amazing. Of course, Ramczyk has been absolutely lights out since entering the NFL as a young player, and Terron Armstead has been a steady force for Drew Brees in protecting his blind side. At number 2, I have the Saints. And at number 1, the Philadelphia Eagles, for the pure amount of depth that they have at this position. It's absolutely insane to see this amount of depth at the tackle position from one NFL team. Of course, you have Jason Peters, who's a Hall of Fame caliber player. Then you have Lane Johnson, who's arguably the best right tackle in football. He's probably the second, in my opinion, behind only Mitchell Schwartz of the Kansas City Chiefs. And when they won the Super Bowl, he was the best right tackle in football. He ranked 12th overall by PFF last season. Halipoli Vaitai is the primary backup swing tackle of the Philadelphia Eagles. They trusted Vaitai enough to play left tackle, and Vaitai did a great job in replacing Jason Peters in that season. And then, of course, they go out in the NFL draft this season, and in the first round, they draft Andre Dillard, arguably the best pass blocking tackle in this draft class. The Philadelphia Eagles have an absolutely loaded tackle group that I think their backups could be starting for another NFL team in 2019. At number 3, at the guard position, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Quentin Nelson, in his first season in the NFL, is arguably already the best guard in football, ranking overall number 3 by PFF. Mark Glowinski is also a very solid contributor on the offensive line, ranking number 17 by PFF at the guard position. Josh Andrews is a solid backup. I think this all just comes down to Quentin Nelson and his pure force as a guard. I have never seen a guard put on a highlight tape like Quentin Nelson. The way that he can just absolutely pancake other defenders is absolutely incredible. And Glowinski had a really nice season here as the Colts kind of formed a very nice offensive line over the course of 2018. At number 2, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers with David DeCastro, Roman Foster. These two are absolutely an awesome duo who have been very consistent over the course of their NFL careers. DeCastro ranked number 11, which was kind of low for him by PFF standards. DeCastro, to me, is still one of the best guards in football, and Foster ranked at number 16. It doesn't really matter who they have at running back. They open up those holes, and they provide Ben Roethlisberger with a ton of time to throw the football. Behind them, they have B.J. Finney, who actually, he was only a little bit behind David DeCastro, according to PFF, on over 100 snaps, and actually ranked just as good as David DeCastro. So if they are in need of somebody to step into that spot, it would be Finney. Patrick Morris and Fred Johnson also add provided depth off the bench if needed. And at number 1, the New England Patriots guards Shaq Mason and Joe Thuney, along with Ted Karras and Froholt, who they just drafted in the NFL draft, who's a promising player from many scouts, but I really want to focus on Shaq Mason and especially Joe Thuney. Shaq Mason, to me, had the best season of any guard in the NFL last season and allowed the Patriots to shift to more of a run-heavy approach behind Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, and their running backs. Joe Thuney doesn't get enough credit because Shaq Mason is so awesome, and a lot of the credit really does go to Dante Scarnecchia, who's one of, if not the best offensive line coach in football, but Joe Thuney's been awesome, and there's even reports that he may play a little bit of left tackle this year. I think he's an extremely underrated player that deserves more attention. Ted Karras is certainly one of these backups on the Patriots that could start on other teams, but because he's on the Patriots, he's kind of that guy that replaces Joe Thuney or Shaq Mason whenever needed. And like I said, Froholt is a young, promising player who could see time as a starter in the future. At number 3 at the center position, I have the Dallas Cowboys combination of Travis Frederick, who when playing, he of course missed last season, is one of, if not the best center in football. And we got to see what Joe Looney was made of when Travis Frederick went down and out. Joe Looney ranked number 32 by PFF in 2018, ranking as a starting caliber center. So that just means to me that the Cowboys have 2 starting caliber centers on their roster. Travis Frederick, of course, is going to be back as the starting center. And if he has any health or injury issues at all, I think Joe Looney will fill in very well. At number 2, the Buffalo Bills, who really have 3 centers, but I'm just going to focus on the 2. That's Mitch Morse, who they've recently signed from the Kansas City Chiefs this offseason, and Russell Bodine, their center of last season. Now, both of these players ranked in the top 20 by PFF, Mitch Morse ranking at number 13, and Bodine ranking at number 18. I feel like if needed, Bodine could possibly play guard if they don't feel like that position is adequate along the offensive line. But overall, Mitch Morse is a huge upgrade, I do believe, because I think personally he's a top 10 center. Very good, especially as a pass blocker. Bodine, I think, is a nice insurance policy as Mitch Morse does get injured quite a bit at the center spot. So these two make a nice complement to each other, and the Bills are smart to have this quality depth behind Mitch Morse. And at number 1 at the center position, I have the Indianapolis Colts for their combination of Ryan Kelly and Evan Boehm. Now, Evan Boehm kind of just fell into the Colts' lap once he was released from the Cardinals. He was actually drafted by the Cardinals, still a very young player, and ranked number 9 this season by PFF. Ryan Kelly, just like Mitch Morse of the Bills, is a player that's very good when he's on the field, but often gets injured. So the Colts are smart for having this quality depth, and Boehm, when he's been in, has proven that he can be a very quality player. Ryan Kelly, when he's playing, is one of the best centers in football. So I really love this combination that the Colts have at this position. Not only a quality starter, but a guy who can fill in just as well, if not better, than the starter at times. Ranking in at number 3 at the tight end position is the Indianapolis Colts for their combination of Eric Ebron and Jack Doyle. Eric Ebron really had a breakout season last season with Andrew Luck throwing him the football. 13 touchdowns for Eric Ebron last season. Really had an awesome season, was a red zone issue for a lot of defenses. A big body, a guy that can go up, get it, and bring it down. Eric Ebron, I think, and Jack Doyle complement each other well. Jack Doyle was injured quite a bit last season, which thus gave Eric Ebron the chance to break out. But Jack Doyle is a nice complement because he's more of the well-refined route runner, pass catcher. He's more consistent with his hands. But he's not necessarily the athlete Ebron is. He's not necessarily the red zone threat Ebron is. But Jack Doyle is a very nice complement to what Eric Ebron can bring this Colts offense. I really like this duo. They had great production last year when on the football field together and apart. And I like what the Colts have at tight end. At number 2, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers combination of O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate. The production isn't as high as you would like from these two, but that's also due to the fact that the Tampa Bay Bucs, in my opinion, had the best set of receivers in the 2018 season with their 4 receivers. Now, 2 of them are gone. So I think with Brate and O.J. Howard stepping up, they'll have an even greater season in 2019. O.J. Howard, to me, this is going to be his breakout year of being a premier tight end in football. He's such a great athlete, whether it's breaking through and big gains down the football field, being a vertical threat in the passing game, being a guy that can take it the distance at the tight end spot, which is so rare. And then Cameron Brate is a very good red zone weapon. Another guy like Jack Doyle, who has very reliable hands and very savvy in his route running. These two form a very nice combination. At number 1 at the tight end position, I do, of course, predictably, have the Philadelphia Eagles, Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, and Richard Rodgers, who a lot of people forget's even on this roster, but has had success in the past, most notably for his Hail Mary receptions from Aaron Rodgers. But Dallas Goedert really impressed me as a rookie last year. It's very rare that tight ends as rookies have successful seasons. And even as a backup, Goedert did show that he could have success. And then you look at Zach Ertz, who's one of the premier tight ends in football, a great route runner, not necessarily the traditional tight end from the sense of he's going to block and be an inline guy, but he's a really good move tight end, very good route runner, awesome hands, like some of the best hands in football, very clutch as well on third down, very reliable. These tight ends are the best in football and it can be set up most commonly in 2 tight end sets, which I believe the Philadelphia Eagles rank number 1 for their use of 2 tight end sets, and I think we'll continue to do that in 2019 with these two at the helm. And at the wide receiver position, I'm sure the position that you've all been waiting for, that's why I made it last on the list. At number 3, I have the Cleveland Browns. Yes, the Cleveland Browns now recently are the newest addition to this list after adding Odell Beckham Jr. to the mix alongside Jarvis Landry. I think they are just such a great combination because of what Odell can do to stretch out a defense and how Jarvis Landry can just carve them apart underneath. But then you look at the depth of the Browns receiving core with Rashard Higgins and also Antonio Callaway. Callaway is one of the fastest receivers in football. And I think the Browns are going to give a lot of teams issues because of Callaway as their number 3 and Higgins as possibly their number 3 or number 4, where these receivers are so different. Like Higgins is very tall. He's kind of more a go up and type of get it type of receiver, while Callaway is more of the burner, more the speed type, and they can complement each other and complement Odell and Jarvis by adding to the mix of this receiving core. I really like what they have going into 2019. The only reason they're really at number 3 to separate them from the top 2 is that we haven't seen it yet on the football field with the Browns, but they very well could rank as number 1 after the 2019 season. At number 2, I have the LA Rams receiving group with Brandon Cooks as their primary deep threat. Then you have Robert Woods as their do-it-all player and Cooper Kupp as their slot receiver. But also, we were shown that Josh Reynolds can step in and have some success in the NFL replacing Cooper Kupp. Now, he's not Cooper Kupp, and that's why this position group is even valued more, in my opinion, is because Cooper Kupp showed that even with this great McVay system, these receivers do matter. You know, they're better than we think. It's not just the system that's making this happen. It is the great skill at the position as well. And all these players do things very well independent of each other. Cooks is one of the best deep threats in the NFL. He has great burner type speed. He's a very savvy route runner, very crisp in his routes down the field especially. Cooper Kupp is a really good red zone weapon and very clutch on third down. And Robert Woods is an excellent possession receiver as well as a very good blocker at the receiver position. All of these guys bring their own unique traits to the Rams, and I think that's what makes them special. And at number 1, I have the Atlanta Falcons. This is mostly due to the fact that they have Julio Jones and none of these other teams have Julio Jones. The Browns are close with Odell, but the Rams, I love Woods, I love Cooks, but none of them are Julio Jones. Julio Jones sets up Mohamed Sanu and Calvin Ridley for being so great in their independent roles. And these two players in Ridley and Sanu complement Jones very, very well. And I believe that we're going to see that next step taken by Calvin Ridley in 2019, which is going to make this group even better. I think Sanu is going to take more of a backseat to these two receivers in Jones and Ridley. I really love how Sanu has the versatility to play outside or inside. Ridley has the versatility to play outside or inside. And Jones is the best all-around receiver in football. All of these three players are so good, such great route runners. Ridley and Jones down the field. Ridley showed he's a red zone threat as well with 10 touchdowns. So Atlanta overall, the best receiving group in the NFL, in my opinion, going into 2019. And those are my best position groups for the offensive side of the football going into 2019. What do you think of my list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Gronk, spike the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It's Mitch of TheBottomLineView. Thanks for watching, and peace out.